All right, this is Obaid on behalf of American Income Life. And in this video, we'll be looking at our disability claim form as well as APS statement. Okay, so whenever you have a disability, you have to fill out the application. And should you have a need to claim that disability benefit, you'll need to fill out the disability claim form. Okay, so some of the applications for the APS statement and the disability claim form. This would be the summary of a medical history, okay? Description of current health, medications, and other treatments used to foreshadow disease or other conditions by the doctor for ongoing issues. Okay, used by insurance companies to check for pre-existing conditions when they're underwriting applications or underwriting coverage. Okay, your disability claims. Okay, may be used by the insurance companies to certify cause of death. It may be used to check for misrepresentation, omission, fraud, so on and so forth. Okay, finally, last but not least, it may also be used for exclusions. Okay, to check on exclusions like extreme sports, self-inflicted injuries, so on and so forth. Okay, so these are some of the applications for this form, both the APS and your disability claim form. Okay. All right. So when it comes to medical history, um, the insurance companies do need to verify your medical history from time to time. And again, this is to underwrite risk. Okay. So obviously, insurance is a business, and that's the reason why when it comes to underwriting risk, if that risk is not profitable for the insurance company, they will not approve your coverage. Okay. And to underwrite this risk, they will need your medical history. Okay, so when it comes to medical history, one of the ways they can get your medical history would be through your vitals. Okay, so your systolic, your diastolic, your pulse rate, these are all your vitals, and they measure your blood pressure and your pulse rate. Okay, if you're a diabetic, okay, one way they get your information when it comes to your medical history is your finger prick test. Okay, and again, this is to underwrite claims or to underwrite policies, okay, applications. All right. So another application, another place where you can use your APS form, your attending physician statement, where you might need your attending physician statement. This would be for summary of health, medication, and other treatments. Okay. So again, the insurance company will need this summary to underwrite risk as well as to approve claims. Okay, so this summary may or may not include things like medication, treatments, your heart monitoring, so on and so forth. Okay. Okay, the third application for your APS would be to forecast disease. Okay, should you have a heart attack? Should you have cardiovascular disease? Should you have any kind of cancer? Okay, these are some of the places where the insurance company might need your APS, not only to underwrite your application, not only to approve your application, but also to approve your claim. Okay, forecasting conditions. Okay, so should you have a plaque, for example, which may lead to heart attack, which may lead to cardiovascular disease? Okay, should you have any kind of brain condition, a brain aneurysm, which may rupture anytime? Okay, these are all conditions that the insurance company would want to know about. And the reason why, again, the same reason, to underwrite risk, to make sure that the insurance coverage that they're offering you is a profitable venture for them as well. Okay. Okay. All right. You also have pre-existing conditions. Okay. So when you fill out your disability application for income replacement, okay, um, the insurance company will need to underwrite all your pre-existing conditions. Okay, so they might have a questionnaire for you, especially when you fill out your disability application. And that medical questionnaire is to check for any sort of pre-existing condition. Okay, so should you have any kind of heart condition, They might want to know if you had a history of heart attacks in the past 5 to 10 years. Okay, so based on that history, they may either underwrite your policy and approve your risk or may cancel your coverage altogether. Okay, again, when it comes to your claim, if you do make a claim, if you do submit a claim, your disability claims, okay, so the insurance company will need to approve those as well. And the way they approve those would be by approving your pre-existing conditions. Okay, should they find out later on, once you submit a claim, that you had a pre-existing condition that you didn't declare on your application, okay, that might just null and void the coverage altogether. Okay, proof of death. This is another application for your APS and your claim form. So when it comes to proof of death, okay, your attending physician statement may be used to get some sort of a proof of death. And obviously, when it comes to approving claims, okay, whether it's a life insurance policy or a disability claim, the insurance company will need some sort of a proof from you, from the life insured or the policy holder, to make sure there was a loss. All right. Okay, another way they can find out about this would be through a medical examiner. Okay, so when they do an autopsy or when they examine your body for the cause of death, this is one way they underwrite your risk. Okay, to figure out whether or not the cause of death was relevant to your policy and coverage. Okay, your medical exams. Okay, this is another place where you might need your APS. And the reason why you need your APS is because when they do your blood and urine test reports, okay, this often goes on your MIB, okay, your Medical Information Bureau, and this information is shared by hospitals nationwide. Okay, so should something pop up, should something come up that basically uh, bumps up the risk, the chances of you getting a disease or getting into an accident, it will cancel your coverage, okay? Or at least give you a rated policy, if not cancel your coverage. All right, denial of benefits. So when it comes to benefits, there are certain ways you may have your benefits denied. There are certain reasons why the insurance company might deny your benefits. Okay, one is misrepresentation. Okay, so misrepresentation can be done in good faith, or it can be a deliberate misrepresentation. So when basically done in good faith, okay, should this happen within 2 years, within the issue of the policy date? So 2 years after the policy was issued, they basically um, check what they can do for you. They basically go ahead and either increase your premiums, okay, or change your benefit period, for example. Okay. Now, if this misrepresentation was done deliberately, if it was a fraud, they might just go ahead and null and void your coverage. Okay. Cancel your coverage altogether. All right. Now, if it was a deliberate misrepresentation, if it was a fraud, okay, and if the insurance company finds out about this fraud, let's say 10 years into the future, they can still cancel your coverage. All right. Okay. However, if it was done in good faith, they have about 2 years to figure out the mistake. And if it happens after 2 years, okay, unfortunately, they cannot cancel your coverage. All right. Apart from that, you also have absence of loss. All right. So if there was no loss in the accident, or if there was no loss after you suffered a condition that led to a disease, then obviously you're not entitled to any coverage. All right. When you submit your claim form. All right. Delay in filing a claim. Okay. Now, as per rules and regulations, the insured is expected to get in touch with the insurance company 30 days after submitting the claim. All right. And that is just to let the insurance company know that something is happening. All right. After that, you've got about 90 days to submit your claim. And this is 90 days after your disability starts. Okay. All right. So your benefits may also be denied because of certain exclusions. Okay. One of them is war. So let's say you go to a war-torn country, and should something happen to you over there, your benefits might be denied. Second one is terrorism, self-inflicted injuries, attempted suicide, participation in illegal activities, so any criminal activities, extreme sports. Okay, so let's say skydiving, bungee jumping, any one of these sports may be an exclusion for your policy, for which reason your disability benefit might be denied. Okay. Not to mention normal pregnancy. Unfortunately, pregnancy is an exclusion for many disability policies, for which reason your disability benefit or claim might be denied. All right. Now, apart from that, you also have policy ratings. Okay. If it's not an exclusion, however, if it bumps up your risk, if it bumps up the risk for the insurance company when it comes to underwriting, when it comes to you making claims, okay, they might just reduce your monthly benefits. Okay, so they might reduce your coverage or they might reduce your benefit period. So that will be the period that you're covered for when it comes to your disability benefits. Okay, they might just go ahead and increase the length of the waiting period. Okay, so they might just bump up your waiting period time. Okay, so instead of waiting for 3 months, you might just end up waiting for 9 months altogether before you get paid. Okay. Okay, some stats on misrepresentation, omission, and fraud. Okay, so the Coalition Against Insurance Fraud indicates that fraud does cost businesses and consumers a certain amount of money, and this amount is roughly $308.6 billion a year. Okay, which also means that the average family pays between $400 and $700 a year more in premiums because of fraud. Okay, as per stats, okay, life insurance fraud is valued at $74.7 billion. Medicare fraud is valued at $60 billion. Healthcare insurance fraud is valued at $36.3 billion. Workers' compensation, $34 billion, so on and so forth. Okay. It's estimated that employers and insurance companies, they lose millions of dollars to benefit fraud each year. Okay. And according to CLHIA, insurers, excuse me, they paid out nearly $41 billion in supplementary health claims in 2021. Okay. The CLHIA also estimates that the industry loses more than $600 million per year, okay, because of fraud and insurance abuse by employees or by healthcare providers submitting claims on behalf of employees. All right. So to fill out the claim form and the APS statement as a sample, let's go ahead with Part A. Okay. And Part A is your form. This is your claimant statement. Okay. And let's start off with the policy number. Okay. Your policy number can be on your policy summary page. Okay? You can find your policy number on the amendment. You can find your policy number on a letter that does request any kind of additional requirements. Your policy number may also be found on an official premium receipt. Okay, so this is your policy summary page. As you can see, they've got your number right here at the top. Okay, the insured individual, his birthday, beneficiary, so on and so forth. Okay, this is your policy amendment. Your insurance number, your policy number will be at the bottom of the page. Okay, next you have your policy number on a letter requesting additional requirements for underwriting. And this policy number is on the right-hand side on top of the page. Okay, you may also find your policy number on an official premium receipt. Okay, this one is from Manulife. As you can see, the policy number is right underneath the title. Okay. Okay, if it's a group policy, you may find your policy number on the letter that was sent to you by your group policy service provider, your insurance company for group policy. Okay. And again, this is another one of those group policies. Okay. This is your group life and accident insurance policy. All right. So when it comes to your policy number, let's go ahead and fill this one out. Okay. So let's say your policy number is a 9-digit number starting with 742-845-897. Okay. Now, this is the policy number for one of the coverages that you might have with this company, with American Income Life. Okay. Should you have any other coverages? Should you have a group policy or any other individual plans? Okay. You may fill out your policy numbers for those plans right beside this one over here. Okay. All right. Okay. Now, when it comes to your policy number, make sure you are accurate when you type this in, okay, when you fill out your form, because misrepresentation, errors and omissions do cost insurance companies as well as the life insured a lot of money when it comes to claims. Okay, so an insurance company does have the right to cancel your policy if the information you gave is not correct or complete. And any kind of misrepresentation on your part of these facts could cause your rates to go up. Okay. It could also render your policy null and void. Okay. To make your policy null and void, the insurance company can go ahead and cancel your policy and leave you without a claim. All right. So next is your policyholder's name as it shows on a government piece of ID. Okay. Now your government piece of ID could be your health card. It could be your driver's license. Okay. Make sure you write your full name, your first, middle, and last name from your government piece of ID. Okay, so let's say your policy owner's name in this case, this is XYZ, YZZ. All right. Okay, so again, this name should match your government photo ID. Okay, you can see your name right here under name on your driver's license. Okay. All right. So some of these stats relevant to errors and omissions, relevant to mistakes. Okay, even seemingly unimportant mistakes on an application can be grounds for your insurance company to deny payments to your beneficiaries. Okay, for personal lines, the top five where coverage not procured, some of the mistakes. Okay, one of them was coverage not procured, inaccurate information provided to your carrier, your insurance company, failure to explain policy provisions, failure to duplicate prior coverage, okay? Failure to communicate the insurance company's requirements to the customer. And in each case, this failure um, basically cost the insured 30% of all the claims that were submitted. Okay. So the average cost, the average expense to defend a broker, errors and omission claim is in the range of $75,000 to $100,000. Okay, far more than 25K it took to defend those kind of claims about 15 years ago. Okay, so obviously with inflation and all that, this price does go up. Okay, and as time passes by, the errors and omission claims um, do get a bit expensive. All right. So next you have your policy owner's address. So when it comes to the address, again, you want to make sure this address is the same as on your driver's license, for example. If you're using your driver's license for your government photo ID, so you want to go ahead and type in the address. So let's say in this case, your policy owner's address is 123 Flamingo Crescent. Okay. Brampton, Ontario. Canada. With the postal code L6R3K and whatever the last digit is. Okay. Okay. So that would be your address. Again, this address is for the policy owner. Your policy owner could be a different person than your life insured, okay, especially if your policy owner is the payer of the policy, okay, the one who pays for the life insurance policy. Okay, one such example would be your employer. Okay, so if you have a group policy and your employer is a sponsor, okay, your policy owner would be your employer, okay, your plan sponsor. All right. Okay. Okay, so when it comes to address, okay, again, errors and omissions, okay. The data that we collect while correcting policy shows an average of 9 errors in each policy. In 2018, we logged more than 4.5 million discrepancies. Okay, that's hundreds of thousands of errors per month, and E&O risk insurance that brokers and carriers can't afford. Okay, and based on the data, an incorrect location or address is a top mistake. All right, and this is from resourcepro.com. Okay, now should there be a change in address, your name, or anything of that sort, you do have the option to fill out your PSR request form, your policy service request form. Okay, so that way you can make sure, you can be rest assured that the information on file is accurate without any typos. All right. Okay, we're going to go ahead and fill in your policy owner's employer. Okay. So let's say in this case, your policy owner's employer is XYZ Transportation. All right. Your policy owner's occupation. Okay. So your occupation for your policy owner. Now, again, this is relevant if your policy owner is also the life insured. Okay. Because what we're doing over here is trying to figure out risk in your occupation. Okay. So the insurance company is trying to figure out if there is risk in the occupation pursued by the life insured. And based on that risk, they will underwrite your coverage. Okay, so policy owner's occupation, let's say this is bookkeeper. All right. Policy owners, union and local. Okay, now should you have a union for your occupation, for your workplace, you will need to type in the name of your union as well as the local chapter. Okay. Now, before we move ahead with the union, you can find your address. Okay. Um, on your ROE, your record of employment. You can also verify your address on your ROE as well as your employer's address. Okay, your occupation is also listed on your record of employment. Okay, and again, the occupation has to do with occupation risk. Okay, that's the reason why you need that information. One of the reasons why, because occupation risk and working conditions will impact your premiums overall. Premiums for hazardous occupations and working conditions are higher than premiums for less hazardous conditions, working conditions. Okay, and insurance companies, they evaluate these risks and make sure that none of the exclusions apply. Okay, right? So as the risk of injury, death, sickness, so on and so forth goes up, so does the premium. And that's the reason why you need to fill in that blank. Okay, talking about statistics, each year an estimated 2 million women and men, they die as a result of occupational accidents and work-related disease. Okay, across the globe, there are about 270 million occupational accidents and 160 million work-related disease each year. Each day, an average of 6,000 people die as a result of work-related accidents or disease. Okay, and this totals up to more than 2.2 million work-related deaths a year. Okay, out of this out of this total, 350,000 deaths are from workplace accidents, and more than 1.7 million are from work-related disease. Okay, commuting accidents, they equal to 158,000 in fatal accidents as well. Okay. And this is from ILO.org, your International Labor Union. Okay. So when it comes to finding your union, when it comes to figuring out if you're in a union, you may check your pay stub. Okay. Unions often require you to make a payment as part of membership, okay, fees. And these fees are usually taken out from your pay stub directly. All right. So this is an example of union dues being paid for a member from his pay stub. Okay. And one of the unions in Canada would be UFCW. Okay. The other one would be ACFO, ACAF. Okay. So UFCW stands for United Food and Commercial Workers International Union. This is a labor union with 1.3 million workers in the States and Canada and industries like retail, meatpacking, food processing, manufacturing, hospitality, agriculture, chemical trade, security, textile, and healthcare. Okay, some of the advantages of unions: the higher wages, reduced wage gaps, increased revenue, employer provided group disability coverage, improved health and safety, so on and so forth. Okay, now since these unions, they also bump up your longevity and stability of employment, they reduce financial risk to the insured and ultimately for the insurance company when it comes to premium payments. Okay, the more stable your job is, okay, the more stable your finance. Okay, and the more stable your finance, the more stable your bank account. Okay, the insurance company can be rest assured that the premiums will be paid on time. Okay, so insurance companies able to underwrite risk based on shared characteristics and group makeup. So, for example, if you are in a group of 10 people and nine of them are basically under 35, okay, your insurance company will charge you premiums based on that age. Okay, so based on your average group makeup, okay, which is quite profitable for somebody over 35 in a group under 35, right? Because that way, when it comes to group premiums, he has to pay less than in his individual disability policy. All right. So apart from that, gender also plays a role when it comes to group premiums. So women in general, they tend to live longer than men, and that's the reason why their mortality expenses um, relevant to insurance policies are less than men. And as a result, the premiums are also less. Okay, so your gender, group makeup, your age, occupation, all is considered when it comes to underwriting your premiums. All right, not to mention a group policy is also easier for the insurance company to manage and administer. Okay, because they only have to deal with one master contract rather than more than 9 or 10 disability policies altogether. Okay, so this is amazing for the insurance company when it comes to policy changes, policy change requests, claim payments, premium collection, so on and so forth. All right, so let's go ahead and fill out your patient's name under Part A. Okay, so here, this is, for example, UFCW. Okay, and 633. That would be your local. All right. Your patient's name. Again, this is the name of the patient as it shows up on their government photo ID. So let's say the name of the patient is YZZ, YZZ for this example's sake. All right. You'll also need the birthday for your patient. So let's say the birthday for your patient is 24th October, 1988. Okay. Furthermore, you'll need the relationship of the patient or the life insured to the policy owner. Okay. Okay. So this person can be a family member or it can be somebody totally unrelated as long as the policy owner is the payer of the policy. Okay. So let's say this could be an employer, a business that hires an employee and pays for his or her group policy. Okay. So relationship to the policy owner. In this example, we'll say family member, okay, or it can say uncle. All right. All right. Okay. So how is the patient related to the policy holder? Okay. The patient can be the policy holder himself. Okay. So there are cases when the life insured is the policy owner, is also the payer of premiums. Okay. However, in some cases, your policy owner could be a different person than your life insured. Okay. So you'll need to let us know. You'll need to let your insurance company know what the relation of the policy owner is to the patient, okay, or the life insured. And again, when it comes to your birthday, when it comes to the patient's birthday and name, they must match his or her government photo ID. Okay, and again, this is to um, verify the name, the address, so on and so forth. Okay, so address should match your government photo ID. The name should match the government photo ID as well as the birthday. Okay, so when it comes to birthdays, should you have any errors and omissions, if you declare yourself younger than you really are, okay, it does put you in a position where you end up paying less in premiums. But at the same time, if this fact is discovered sometime later in the future, these premiums will come out of your death benefit. Okay, they may come out of your death benefit. The insurance company may also prorate your premiums, as far as I understand. Okay. So the reason why someone might declare that they are younger is because the premiums are higher for older individuals. And the reason why older individuals may end up paying more in premiums is because the older the individual is, the higher the probability of death. Okay. The higher the probability of disability because of weak bones, weak heart, so on and so forth. The higher the probability for critical illness or terminal illness. Why? Because of a weakened immune system. Okay, so on and so forth. Okay, so again, birthdays they must match government photo ID, and they should also match your application and claim forms. Okay, because otherwise there's going to be a discrepancy, which will just lead to delaying your application, your claim. All right. And if there is a deliberate misrepresentation, there are chances that the insurance company might null and void your policy altogether. Okay, they might cancel your coverage altogether. All right, so this is that. Your patient's relationship to the policyholder. Okay, so the life insured or the patient's relation to the policyholder directly reflects your policyholder's insurable interest in patient's health, disability, etc. If the policyholder does not have an insurable interest in the life of the life insured, the policy may become null and void. Okay? For example, if it's a group disability policy sponsored by your employer and the policyholder is a third party not related to the employer, okay, it may void the contract altogether. Okay. So as you can see over here, you have your individual insurance policy, your disability policy, your group disability insurance policy, and your creditor insurance for disability. Okay, the policy holder for your group policy is your group sponsor, which in this case would be your employer, and individual policy would be your applicant or the insured. Okay, it could also be another policy holder who's paying for the life insured. Okay, so again, you do need to indicate your relationship of the life insured to the policy holder, and this is the reason why. All right. Okay. Now you also have the address of the patient. Okay. So fortunately, we won't fill this out in part A. Okay, we only have the birthday and the name to take care of for the time being. Okay, but when it comes to addresses, when it comes to name and policy number, okay, they can be found on your premium receipt, your official premium receipt that you might have received from your insurance company. Um, okay, it may also be found on your policy summary page. Okay, so your summary page may be used to verify policy number, birthday, and the name of the life insured. Okay, some of the other ways that the insurance company might verify your ID. One would be your government photo ID, such as your driver's license or your health card. The second would be your credit file method. The third would be your dual process method. Okay, affiliate or member method, and reliance. Okay. So when it comes to medical records, these records may be used to verify medical history. They can also be used to verify family relations, relationships between the policyholders and life insureds. Okay, and if the policyholder is related to the patient or the life insured, well, their medical history will impact premiums. Okay, so when it comes to medical history, for example, okay, you are required to declare your medical history in certain situations. Okay, not only just your medical history, but also the medical history of your family. All right. And based on the risk, based on what you declare for your medical history, the insurance company might go ahead and give you a policy rating or increase your premiums altogether. Okay, so your medical records may also be used to verify medical history, your family relations, relations between the policyholders and the life insured. And if the policyholder is related to the patient or life insured, both their medical history will impact your premiums. Okay, MIB. Now, MIB is used for verification purposes. So if the policyholder is related to the patient or life insured, their medical history will impact premiums. Okay, so this is another way one can figure out your relationship with the policyholder. Okay. Medical records may also be used to verify medical history. Okay. Okay. So these are some of the ways um, that may be used to verify your relationship with the policyholder. All right. Now, part A, claimant statement. Again, you need to declare the name of the insurance companies which cover these claims. Okay, if you have more than one policy, you will need to list all the insurance companies that you have policies with. Okay, and you may check your policy summary page to see which other policies you might have so that you can list the information over here. Okay, so that's your policy summary page, your summary sheet, which may be used to check for other types of coverages offered by other life insurance policies and providers. Okay, and this information is also used to make sure there's no overlap in coverage where it's not required. Okay, and what they mean by that is, say, for example, you have two kinds of policies. One is your group, another one is your individual policy. And let's say your group policy kicks in first when it comes to coverage, and your individual policy fills in the gap. Okay, so that will be the difference between the total required to pay for your medical expenses and the total covered by your group policy. Okay, so they want to make sure that these two policies don't overlap, so that way you don't have a gap in between your coverage, okay, and the total required for your expenses. Okay, so group versus individual coverage. So your individual coverage may be used to pay for any shortage of coverage when it comes to total expenses or income replacement. Okay, so if your income replacement, for example, is higher than the coverage offered by the group plan, okay, then you might need your individual disability plan to cover the gap. Okay. Your group coverage has restrictions when it comes to the amount of coverage offered for disability. Okay. And this is usually between 60 to 66.66%. Okay. Or 67% of pre-disability income. for long-term LTD and for 70 to 75% for STD. Okay, so between 70 to 75% for short-term disability. Okay, all right. Your individual coverage may also provide for additional benefits. Okay, so you might have riders and additional coverage under your individual base policy. Okay, such as return of premiums, waiver of premiums, so on and so forth. Okay, that you might want to use. All right. Now, even though group coverage is less expensive and offers more coverage in general, it's controlled by the employer, and that's the reason why individual coverage may be added to give policyholder more control, portability, convertibility, and flexibility. Okay, so when it comes to your group coverage, your employer, who is also the plan sponsor, is in control of the policy. Okay, and it's also not portable. Okay, the reason why is if you switch your employers, you will need to get another policy. Okay, with the second employer. Okay, not to mention, should you go ahead and travel outside the country or outside the province, you won't be covered by your group policy altogether. Okay, all right. Okay, now apart from that, you also need the address, okay, for all the doctors that you've seen in the past few days, months, or weeks for this particular sickness or accident. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and fill all this out. Okay, so name of insurance companies, other insurance companies which cover this claim. So for the time being, for this example's sake, we're going to say this is not applicable. All right. So doctor. So when it comes to doctor, so let's say the name of your doctor is XYZ. Okay, so that will be the first and last name of your doctor. You're required to fill this out as an applicant or as the person who's submitting the claim or the policyholder. Okay, the address for your doctor. So any doctors that you've seen, any physicians that you've seen in the past few months, weeks, or days, okay, for this particular illness. So let's say this is, okay, give me one moment. Okay, 123 Hospital Drive. Okay, Brampton, Ontario. Canada. And the postal code will be L5G2G3. Okay. You'll also need to type in the dates as to when you saw this doctor. So let's say this is 24 October 2023. Okay. All right. And this information may be verified by the insurance company via MIB or inspection reports. Okay. The policyholder on the other side, this person can check on this information via a doctor's letter, okay, or a sick note. Okay, so they may verify this information using a doctor's letter or a sick note, okay, for this condition. Okay, some of the relevant stats. Okay, so again, okay, we talk about discrepancies. Okay, and this is basically a mistake when typing in your address. You want to make sure that the address is correct for the hospital in question or the clinic in question for the doctor that you've seen in the past. Okay, and again, you can use the doctor's letter or the sick note to verify or check on their address. As you can see over here, you have your doctor at the top, the address at the bottom, phone number, fax number, so on and so forth. Okay, As far as the dates are concerned, the insurance company may verify this information via MIB, your Medical Information Bureau. So anytime you go to a hospital, if it gets recorded on the system, if it shows up on your medical record, it will be passed around via your MIB, your Medical Insurance Bureau. Okay, this would be a network of hospitals nationwide, and usually they use your medical information for many applications. Okay, um, and this information for your privacy reason, for privacy and for other reasons, is basically sent as a code to your insurance company. Okay, so if your insurance company does go ahead and does request any kind of MIB record, it will be sent as a code rather than the complete information for privacy reasons. Okay. Now, hospitalization dates, again, they're also used to check on your pre-existing conditions. Okay, so for example, if the life insured of the patient is treated for a symptom or disease within 12 months of the policy issue date, the policy may become null and void. Okay, this has to do with pre-existing conditions. Okay, so if you have a disease and if this disease shows up within 12 months of the policy issue date, and let's say you didn't declare this disease on the application, okay, then your policy may be canceled. Okay. Much of the underwriting is done at the time of the claim. So if the insurance company does need to find out about a pre-existing condition via APS, your attending physician statement, medical records, your MIB, okay, it may make the policy null and void. Okay. So this is when you submit a claim, and should they find out about any pre-existing conditions, any illness, sickness, or any symptoms, okay, when you submit this claim, okay, prior to you becoming sick, okay, after the policy was issued. This may cancel the policy altogether. Okay, now, if you're a traveler, okay, and a pre-existing condition does exist between 90 and 180 days, this is prior to departure, your policy may become void, especially if it's a chronic disease. Because if it's a chronic disease like cancer or diabetes, for example, you may have a restricted coverage. Okay. Um, Even if this pre-existing condition showed up before 180 days. Okay. All right. Your claimant statement. So your information is collected from the insured or the policyholder himself, and this information can be verified. You can check on this information via witnesses to the symptoms. Okay, so the date that the symptoms first appeared. Okay, symptoms and coverage. So, for example, the life insured may have to prove that he or she was symptom free for about a year before departure for a condition like diabetes. And your claim may be denied if the claim for that particular disease or relevant to any symptoms was recorded up to a year before departure. Okay, this is for travel insurance. Should you go ahead and go for a vacation, and if the insurance company finds out about any pre existing condition about a year before departure, your claim may be denied. Okay. So, date of first treatment by doctor. Now, this information has to be provided on the form itself by the life insured or the policyholder. Okay, and the policyholder and the life insured may check on this information, may verify this information via a doctor's note, and the insurance company may check on this information via medical records or via MIB and inspection reports. Okay, so okay, date of first treatment by the doctor. Okay, so let's say this is 25/10/2023. Okay, you will also need to type in the name of the hospital, the address, and the dates. if you were hospitalized for this particular disease or accident. Okay, so let's say this is a civic hospital in the city. Okay, and the address, let's say this is, okay, all right. And let's say the date, this would be 24/10/2023. Okay, the dates of confinement. Okay, so let's say up till 27/12/2023. Okay, so the symptoms started showing up. The symptoms appeared on the 24th October 2023. And that's the reason why the date of first treatment is 25th October 2023, so day after the symptoms showed up. So in the case of an accident, this person, let's say, was injured in a car accident on the 24th October 2023. And after CT scans and x-rays and whatnot, the treatment started the next day on the 25th of October 2023. Okay, treatment and pre-existing conditions. So chronic conditions, which are diagnosed prior to 180-day period, 90 to 180, well, 108, 108-day period before departure may lead to restricted coverage, especially if the patient was not undergoing treatment, okay, or if not under the care of a physician. Okay, so once again, we were talking about diabetes and cancer. If these conditions are discovered 108 days prior to departure, okay, it may lead to some sort of a restriction when it comes to coverage. So, for example, if something happens to you overseas, okay, let's say you get hospitalized, your hospital expenses won't be covered, okay, by your insurance company. All right, especially if it's because of this particular condition, whether diabetes or cancer. All right, nature of sickness or accident. So the policy owner and the life insured may verify this information via a doctor's notes, and the insurance company may check out this information via medical records, okay, or verify them via inspection reports. Okay, okay. So if an accident, how did it happen? Okay, as well as the date of the accident. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill this out. So let's say this is an auto accident. Okay, if an accident, how did it happen? So let's say this was brake failure, brake malfunction. All right. Furthermore, you will need to type in the date of the accident for insurance purposes. So let's say the date. This is the same day when you were hospitalized. So let's say 24th October 2023. Okay. All right. So have you ever had symptoms of this condition before? Yes or no? As well as when? Okay. So before we move on to that question, I want to emphasize that the dates are very important when it comes to your claim form as well as the APS. Okay, should there be any discrepancy, your claim may be delayed or even be denied altogether. Okay, so one of the reasons why they might ask you about the nature of sickness or accident or how this accident happened. is to figure out whether this accident was because of a policy rating or an exclusion. Okay, so certain policies do have exclusions, such as exclusions for extreme sports, especially disability policies. Okay, and one of those extreme sports might be skydiving, for example, okay, or rock climbing. Okay, so should you happen to involve yourself in one of these sports, and if you do get disabled, unfortunately, uh, it is considered an exclusion, for which reason you won't be receiving any type of coverage whatsoever. All right. So, nature of accident or sickness relevant to policy exclusions and ratings. If sickness was caused by a pre-existing condition, it may lead to denial of benefits related to pre-existing conditions. They claim for an accident because of extreme sports or illegal activities. And again, when they mention illegal activities, we're talking about criminal activities. They may be denied because of policy exclusions. Okay? If the accident was relevant to a pre-existing condition, your pre-existing condition, the claim may be denied because of the date. Okay. Okay. So that's the reason why the date of the accident is also important. Okay. So the dates, again, these are important because of the waiting period. So when it comes to your waiting period, okay, the dates that you type in your disability form as well as your APS, okay, these dates do play a critical role, okay, because of the waiting period. So your waiting period is basically the elimination period that starts, or the waiting period that starts after the onset of disability. Okay, so this is once you become disabled, and it continues all the way till your benefits are paid. Okay, and this period, this time frame, it may be up to 90 days altogether. Okay, so it may be up to 90 days before you start receiving any benefits. Okay, and all this time, you either have another type of coverage, let's say your group policy to pay for your coverage, okay, or you're paying this coverage from your pocket. Okay, so all the expenses, all the hospital expenses are basically paid from your pocket in most cases. Okay, now this also has a chain impact on the benefit period. The reason why it has a chain impact on the benefit period is because your benefit period doesn't start until your waiting period stops. Okay, so if your coverage has not been approved yet, okay, or you're still waiting on your insurance company to approve your coverage, okay, you won't be getting paid. Okay, so again, okay, this coverage um, is basically coming out of your pocket for about 90 days. Okay, have you ever had symptoms of this condition before? Yes and no. Okay, so information again, which is collected from your insured or the policy holder. Okay, this may be verified via witnesses to the symptoms. Okay, so when it comes to symptoms, you don't really report symptoms. They don't go under medical records unless you declare those symptoms to your doctor or your physician. Okay, and that's the reason why if you do have any symptoms, if you do have any kind of symptoms whatsoever, okay, these are basically um, the information is basically collected from the patient or the life insured himself. Okay, you can also verify this via witnesses to your symptoms. Okay, so if you have any witnesses, you may verify this through your witnesses. Symptoms and coverage. For example, the life insured may have to prove that he or she was symptom free for about a year before departure for a condition like diabetes. And your claim may be denied if the claim for that particular disease are relevant to any symptoms reported for up to a year before departure. Okay. Okay. So we were talking about travel insurance earlier. Okay. And if there turns out to be any pre-existing coverage for up to a year prior to departure, your insurance coverage may be denied for travel. Okay. Claim may be denied if the claim for that particular disease or relevant to any symptoms recorded up to a year before departure. Okay, now this is Worse for chronic illnesses. Okay, so your time frame goes up for chronic illnesses like diabetes and cancer. All right, so date required to give up work and date return to work. So let's go ahead and fill this one out. Okay, so let's say the date required to give up work. In this case, this is okay, 24th October 2023. This would be the same day when you got injured in the accident. And the date that you returned to work, okay, let's say this was 28th December 2023. So if you compare these dates over here, you got discharged on the 27th and you started working on the 28th, a day later. Okay, which makes sense. Okay, have you ever had symptoms of this condition before? Yes and no. When? Okay, so when it comes to symptoms, we're talking about auto accident. Okay, so unfortunately, the auto accident was a result of brake malfunction. As a result, there were no symptoms. Okay, so you're going to say no. If you had symptoms, let's say for critical illness, a disease like cancer or diabetes, you're going to declare yes in this box over here. You're going to put a cross mark right beside yes, and you will need to list the dates as to when the symptoms started. Okay, started showing up. All right, so in this case, we're going to go ahead and say no for this over here. Okay. All right. List of all sickness or injuries for which treatment was required in the past 5 years. So sickness or injuries for which treatment was required in the past 5 years. So let's say in this case, this is heart attack. And the date here is 24th October 2022. Okay. So date as well as the condition. Okay. All right. Okay. So again, this has to do with your medical history. Okay. And medical history is important when it comes to underwriting risk. All right. Okay. So a person's health history, including past disability claims and previous health issues, is a major consideration for risk assessment for ANS insurance. Okay. And your client may be subject to severe coverage restrictions. Okay. It's also possible that your coverage might be denied completely if the medical history is too negative. Okay. It's not in your favor. Okay. So this may mean things like chronic illnesses, pre-existing conditions for chronic illnesses like diabetes, high cholesterol, heart attack, cardiovascular disease, so on and so forth. Okay. Okay. So next, you will need to sign this form as the life insured of the claimant, and you'll need to type in your email address. All right. So just before we sign this form, for your protection, laws in certain jurisdictions require the following to appear on this form. Any person who knowingly presents a false or fraudulent claim for payments for a loss is guilty of a crime and may be subject to fines and confinement in a state prison. So any person who knowingly and with intent to defraud any insurance company or other person files a statement of claim containing any materially false information or conceals for the purpose of misleading information concerning any fact material thereto commits a fraudulent insurance act, which is a crime and subjects such person to criminal and civil penalties. Again, this is just for your information. Make sure that you don't type in something which you might later regret. Okay? So again, so let's say your signature here, okay, and your email address. Okay, so let's say this is xyz at outlook.com. Okay, now you might want to make sure your email address is accurate, that you're able to make and receive, send and receive emails, as well as able to access your email account. And the reason for that is inspection report. Okay, so should the insurance company hire a third-party investigator, and if they have any questions and concerns for you or your family, okay, they might need your email address. Okay, they will send an email or give you a call. Okay, so apart from that, for release of medical information authorization, I hereby authorize any licensed physician, medical practitioner, hospital, clinic, or other medical or medically related facility, insurance company, medical information bureau, or other organization that has any records of me, my health, to give to the consultation or treatments, which include alcohol, drug, or chemical dependency treatments, and information received is for the purpose of evaluating this claim and determining our liability under your existing coverage with American Life Insurance Company. And this authorization shall remain valid for 1 year. You have the right to receive a copy of this authorization upon request. A photographic copy of this authorization shall be as valid as the original. Okay, so here you will type in your signature. You will sign the form, so to speak. Okay, and the address, okay, that you will need over here. Okay, so let's say the address is for the patient or the life insured, 123 Patient Drive, Brampton, Ontario. L6R, 3 kilo, whatever you type in over here. Okay, next is your date. So this is the date when you fill this out. Okay, so let's say this date is okay, 24 of January 2024. Okay, so this would be a month after you get discharged from the hospital and start working. Okay, again, this is to, okay, submit a claim for all the expenses that you had in the hospital. Okay, now you may request this form while you're in the hospital. You may fill this out. You may submit your claim while you're in the hospital. Okay, in which case you will change the date over here. Okay, and your phone number, again, you want to make sure your phone number is a valid phone number that the insurance company as well as the third party private investigator is able to reach you on this phone number. Okay, so let's say this phone number is 905 123, whatever the last digit might be. Okay, for your APS, you will need the name of the patient. Okay, so let's say your patient's name is XYZ, YZZ. You will also need the address. Okay, again, this patient's name, this name over here should match the name on the government piece of photo ID. Okay, your government photo ID, your date of birth. Okay, so let's say this is the date of birth for the patient, 24th October, okay, 1988. Okay, your patient's address, let's say this address is 123 Patient Drive, okay, Brampton, Ontario. Okay, Canada L6R 3S. Okay, so Canada L6R 3S. Okay, whatever the last digit might be, the last letter. So diagnosis and concurrent conditions. So let's say this is, okay, okay, if it's heart attack, for example, okay, should you have, okay, a heart attack, you will type in heart attack over here, okay, or cardiovascular disease. And again, this form has to be filled out by your physician or your doctor, okay? Okay, so does this condition arise out of patient's employment? Yes or no? Okay, so this is for the physician. Again, this has to do with working conditions. Okay, so in this case, you're going to say no. All right. Okay, and once again, you want to make sure that the information that you have, okay, this is valid, okay, without any discrepancies. All right. Okay, so report of services. Okay, so date, place, description of surgical or medical services, procedural code, charges, so on and so forth. So here you have your date of services. So let's say, okay, this is, okay, 24th October, 2023. Okay, and let's say the place is a hospital. When we talk about services, we're talking about services like a CT scan, X-ray, collection of blood report, urine sample, so on and so forth. Okay, so you have a hospital in here. So description of surgical or medical service. So let's say this is a CT scan, okay, or an X-ray. Okay, your procedural code, this is 71260. Okay, this is with contrast. Okay, charges. So let's say these are, okay, invoices and receipts. Okay, so whatever shows up on the invoices. So let's say this is $1,000 altogether. Okay, okay. So description of the service. Let's say a blood report, CT scan, X-ray. Okay, and the charges will show up on the receipts that will be handed over to you by your hospital or by your physician or by the clinic. Okay, all right. And again, these expenses will be covered by your insurance company. Okay, with certain restrictions, exclusions, so on and so forth. All right. Okay. Now, When it comes to hospitalization, the insurance company does need this information. They do require this information, and this has to do with your disability benefits. Okay, as I mentioned before, you have your waiting period, your confinement period, and the period when you start receiving your benefits. Okay, so based on that, you will need to provide this information. So let's say the hospital, the name of the hospital. This is Brampton Civic Hospital. Okay, the address is 2100 Fullway Drive. This is Brampton, Ontario. Okay, and the postal code. And so this is L6R 3 kilo. Okay, whatever the postal code is. All right, so dates, when it comes to dates, we're talking about 24th October 2023 till 27th December 2023, for example. Okay. And again, these dates should match the dates in Part A, the one filled out by the life insured or the policy holder. Okay, because otherwise you will have a discrepancy, okay, which will only lead to a delay in the claim or cancellation of your policy if it's deliberate. Okay. Um, okay. Okay. So again, reason for hospitalization records. Okay. Waiting period for disability benefit payments. Okay. Your benefit period for disability benefit payments. MIB records. Benefit allocation. Okay. So your hospitalization record is used for MIB records for future reference, is used to figure out your benefit period based on when you were hospitalized. Okay, so once again, some of the hospitalization benefits are separate from some of the other benefits that you get paid for disability, okay, such as your first day hospitalization benefit, okay, your hospitalization indemnification rider, so on and so forth. Okay, and that's the reason why when you do get paid, you get paid based on the allocation for those benefits. Okay, so let's say for hospitalization, if your first day hospitalization rider pays you $100 a day, okay, then they want to make sure they pay you for each and every day that you were at the hospital. Okay, and that's the reason why they need the hospitalization record. Okay, it's also important for the waiting period. Okay, so should you end up in the hospital and stay there for up to 90 days, they want to make sure that they count those 90 days for the waiting period and start paying you after those 90 days, okay, for your benefit. Okay, now your benefit allocation, as I mentioned earlier, your hospital benefits are separate from some of the other benefits out there. Okay, for example, your emergency room benefit, it might have an allocation for up to $100 from American Income Life. Your daily hospital benefit up to $200, and your ICU benefit, it's up to 14 days, will be up to $400. Okay, so this is just an example. The allocation is different for different individual, okay, based on risk. Okay. All right. So date symptoms first appeared. Okay, so this information is collected from the insured or the policyholder himself, and it may be verified. You can verify this information via witnesses to the symptoms. Okay, usually this information does not show up on the medical records. If it does, it would be in the form of an APS statement, okay, or any other form that you might have filled out. Okay, so this information should match the information in Part A as well. Okay, the date when symptoms first appeared. And the reason why this information is important is because of your pre-existing conditions. Okay, there are certain rules and restrictions when it comes to your pre-existing conditions for certain disability policies as well as travel insurance. Okay, so in this case, okay, because this was an auto accident, we'll say the symptom appeared on the same day when you got into the accident. So let's say 24th October 2023. And it does ask you whether this was a result of an accident, for which you will say yes. Okay. Date patient first consulted you for this condition. All right. So consultation. Okay. Your qualified nurse or doctor may check and verify this information via medical records for future reference. And the insurance company may check MIB and or request inspection reports. Okay. So again, this information is important as well. So let's say consultation would be on the same day when you were admitted in the hospital because of the accident. So let's say 2023. Okay, is the patient still under your care for this condition? Okay, as far as I understand, this is after the patient was released. Okay, because this form was filled out on the 24th of January to claim all the expenses incurred by the patient or the policyholder. Okay, so let's say patient still under your care for this condition, you will say no. All right. And again, this is based on diagnosis. Okay. So the doctor may declare that the patient is still under care and will stay in the hospital or facility for X number of days, weeks, and months based on his or her condition. Okay. Now, patient ever had same or similar condition? Yes or no? Okay. This has to do with pre-existing conditions. Okay. So your qualified nurse or doctor may check medical records and ask the patient, while the insurance company may verify this information via MIB and medical records. Okay, so let's say in this case, okay, you're going to say no, because this was an auto accident. Okay, and this will be not applicable. All right, patient was continuously totally disabled or patient was partially disabled. Okay, now this information has to do with partial, residual, and total disability. Okay, the benefit amounts for partial and residual disability is different than total disability. Okay, not to mention a lot of um, disability policies have restrictions for partial disability. They do not provide coverage. Okay? They do not offer benefits if a person is partially disabled. For AD&D policies, for example, you do not get 100% of the disability if you're partially disabled. Okay. Um, you have to be completely or totally disabled for 100% of the coverage. And again, this definition will change um, from organ to organ. Okay, so you may be considered totally disabled if you lost both your eyes and your eyesight. You may be considered totally disabled if you lost your limbs, both your limbs, okay, below your waist. Okay, so totally disabled and partially disabled. Okay, from which date to which date? So let's say, okay, in this case, this is 24th October, 2023 till 27th December, 2023. Okay, let's say this person was totally disabled, okay, on a hospital bed, was unable to move because of the accident, okay, so on and so forth. Okay, so if you did declare that this person was totally disabled, unless his disability condition changed from partial to total, okay, you will declare that this is not applicable. NA. All right, so NA, not applicable, so to speak. If still disabled, the patient should be able to return to work. So let's say this person, okay, went back to work, Now, when they say disabled, it's possible that this person might be partially disabled. Okay, and that's the reason why he's able to go back to work, perform some of the duties at work, but not able to work the way he was able to work prior to the accident. Okay, now since this is not a partial disability, since this is a total disability, okay, you will say person is not disabled and person is able to go back to work. In this case, this is 28th of December, 2023. Okay, for recovery, or you can say, okay, 28th December, 2023. Okay, does the patient have any other health coverage? Okay, so when it comes to health coverage, we're talking about group policies, we're talking about individual disability plan, we're talking about extended health care, Medicare, so on and so forth. So this patient have any other coverage whatsoever? So you're going to say no, okay, unless you do have coverage from your employer. Okay, and right over here, you're going to declare that this is not applicable. And okay, because you don't have any other policies. Okay, physician's name. So again, this is filled out by the physician. Okay, it's possible that the physician may get in touch with the patient or the life insured or even the policyholder in regards to the information over here. Okay, but in general, this is information on the system. Okay, as long as the medical records are available to the patient or the physician. Okay, this form should be easy to fill out. Okay, so physician's name. So let's say the name of the physician in this case, this is YYY, IUU, and the address. Okay, again, you want to make sure that the address is legible and that there are no typos. So let's say this is 2100 Boway Drive East. This is Brampton, Ontario, L64 3J7. Okay, next you will need the date. Okay, so this date may or may not match the date when the patient filled out the form or the date when the policyholder filled out the form. And the reason for that is because obviously the physician does have other priorities, like looking after other patients rather than filling out this form. So it's possibly one of the reasons why there might be a delay in the physician filling out this form. Okay, which basically means that this date will be different than the one listed in Part A by the patient. So let's say this date is okay, 24th February 2024. Okay, so a month after this form was sent to the physician to fill it out. And let's say the phone number over here, let's say this is 905 999 999, whatever the last number is. Okay, the nature of the physician. So let's say the nature signature rather. This is okay, a signature that shows up on the government photo ID. Okay, and the reason for this is because of signature forgery and ID fraud. Okay, so statistically, ID theft and signature forgery is a big issue, both in Canada and the US, not to mention worldwide. And that's the reason why your signature should more or less match the signature on your driver's license as well as other application forms. Okay, so let's go a moment. Okay, so as you can see, in 2021, the FTC received 5.7 million total fraud reports, 1.4 million of which were ID theft cases. Okay, government documents or benefit fraud tops the list. Okay, with 395,948 total reported cases. The median loss of fraud cases for victims was about $500, and the total losses were around $10.2 billion. Okay. 33% of Americans have experienced some sort of ID theft. Okay. And the state with the highest rates: Georgia, Rhode Island, Louisiana, Illinois, and Texas. Okay. When it comes to Canada, okay, um, to have an issue with signature and document forgery as well. Okay. And that's the reason why you have all these stats. Okay, so your employer statement, the name and the occupation should match the government photo ID. Okay, so let's say the employee's name as it shows up on the photo ID. This is XYZ, YZZ. Okay, the employee will also be the life insured of the patient. Okay, and let's say the occupation that shows up on the pay stub or the ROE. Okay, should match your occupation in Part A. Okay, when did the sickness commence or the accident occur? Again, this should match Part A. Okay, so let's say this was sometime late in the evening, and the date will be the same date as Part A. So this is 24th October 2023. So when did he start working? Just around the same day. So in this case, this is PM, and he stopped working 24th October 2023. Okay, if injured, how did the accident happen? So let's say this was a brake failure, malfunction. Now, the employer might not be aware of this accident because this is an auto accident, unless this accident was relevant to a company vehicle. Okay, but as far as I understand, this information would be requested from the employee, or his or her medical and driving records. Okay, that would be through her medical and or driving records, collision report, so on and so forth. Okay, it may also be requested from the cop or the police who was at the scene. Okay, but nevertheless, okay, this is something that the employer has to arrange for. Okay, so when did the employee resume any part of employee's work, supervisory or otherwise? So in here, you're going to type one day after he was discharged. So let's say he was discharged on the 27th, and he started working on the 28th of December. Okay, and again, this information should match the information in Part A and B to prevent any delay in your claim. Okay. Firm name, this would be the name of the business or your employer. So let's say XYZ Transportation. This would be the same name as in Part A. Okay. Phone number, this is for the employer. Okay, again, this number should be reachable. Okay, both for inspection reports as well as for the insurance company to call. Okay. The street address, this would be your employer's address, the place where you work. So let's say this is 123 Business Drive. Okay, and the city, this will be Brampton, Ontario. Okay, so US state, province in Canada, this is Ontario, and the zip of the postal code will be L6, L6R, 3 kilo, okay, whatever the last number is. Okay, date, let's say the date is, okay, um, 24th of March, 2024. So this gets filled out by your employer after your physician signs the form, the APS. So this would be a month after your physician signs the form. So let's say 24th March. It could also be prior to 24th March, depending on the priority of this form. Okay. Signature of the employer. Again, make sure the signature matches the one on government photo ID to make sure this is an authentic signature from the employer. Okay. And the title of the employer. So let's say this person is a manager. All right. So this is basically how you fill out Part A, B, and C of your disability form and APS, as well as your employer statements. Okay, on behalf of American Income Life, this is Obey. Have yourself a great day.